The assembly will come to order. The chief clerk will call the roll.
Assemblywoman Anderson, Assemblywoman Benitez-Thompson, Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod, Assemblywoman Black, Assemblywoman Brown-May, Assemblywoman Carlton, Assemblywoman Cohen, Assemblywoman Considine, Assemblywoman Dickman, Assemblywoman Duran, Assemblyman Ellison, Assemblyman Flores, Assemblywoman Gonzalez, Assemblywoman Gorlow, Assemblyman Hafen, Assemblywoman Hanson, Assemblywoman Hardy, Assemblywoman Howdigi, Assemblywoman Kasama, Assemblywoman Krasner, Assemblyman Levitt, Assemblywoman Martinez, Assemblywoman Marzola, Assemblyman Matthews, Assemblyman MacArthur, Assemblywoman Brittany Miller, Assemblyman C.H. Miller, Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno, Assemblywoman Wynn, Assemblyman O'Neill, Assemblyman Ortlicker, Assemblywoman Peters, Assemblyman Roberts, Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong, Assemblywoman Thomas, Assemblywoman Titus, Assemblywoman Tolles, Assemblywoman Torres, Assemblyman Watts, Assemblyman Wheeler, Assemblyman Yeager, Assemblywoman Duran, Assemblyman Levitt, Assemblywoman Marzola, Speaker Frierson.
Here, Assemblywoman Benitez-Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May the record reflect that Assemblywoman Duran and Marzola are absent and excused. We have 40 members present.
There are 40 members present. There's a quorum. The assembly will please rise for the prayer by Reverend Maggie McNaught, the First United Methodist Church here in Carson City.
Eternal God, we give you thanks that we have eaten today, are comfortably housed, have health insurance, perhaps an education degree, and meaningful employment. Yet as we look around at some of our Nevadan neighbors, we can see that others are not enjoying these same benefits. Empower us and the Assembly to work together to increase access to healthy food, safe and affordable housing, adequate health care, and an education that will prepare our children to succeed in life. We give you thanks for the range of resources at our disposal to increase the pathways out of poverty and generational financial struggle. We remember our neighbors who contribute much, but who do not feel welcomed in our communities. Help us increase their sense of safety, of worth, and of belonging. O God, author of love and justice, we pray that you will use us to reshape our state in which everyone flourishes. Amen.
Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order of Business 2, reading and approval of the journal.
Carson City, Wednesday, February 24th.
Mr. Speaker.
Assemblywoman Benitez-Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to dispense with further reading of the journal and authorize the Speaker and Chief Clerk to make necessary corrections or additions.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Go to Order Business 4, reports of standing committees.
Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections, to which was referred Assembly Bill 110, has had the same under consideration and begs it to put the same back with the recommendation. Amend and do pass as amended. Brittany Miller, Chair.
Go to Order Business 8, motions, resolutions, and notices.
Notice of exemption, February 25, 2021. The Fiscal Analysis Division, pursuant to Joint Standing Rule 14.6, has determined the eligibility for exemption of Assembly Bill 107. Sarah Kaufman, Fiscal Analysis Division.
Go to Order Business 9, introduction, first reading, and reference of bills.
Assembly Bill 177, introduced by Assemblywomen Benitez, Thompson, et al., Senators Donati and Dennis. An act relating to pharmacy, requiring certain pharmacies to provide information regarding a prescription in a language other than English under certain circumstances, requiring such pharmacies to post notice of rights of a patient to request information in language other than English, providing immunity from civil liability to a pharmacy or employee for injuries resulting from the translation of such information by third party under certain circumstances, and providing other matters properly laid thereto.
Assemblywoman Howdigy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that we refer Assembly Bill 177 to your Committee on Commerce and Labor.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 178, introduced by Assemblywoman Hardy. An act relating to prescription drugs, requiring an insurer to take certain actions relating to the acquisition of prescription drugs for an insured who resides in an area for which a declared disaster or state of emergency is in effect, authorizing a pharmacist to dispense a prescription drug to a patient who resides in such an area in an amount greater than is authorized by the prescribing practitioner under certain conditions, and providing other matters properly laid thereto.
Assemblywoman Howdigy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that we refer Assembly Bill 178 to your Committee on Commerce and Labor.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 179, introduced by Assemblyman Hayfen et al., an act relating to motor vehicles, exempting from the payment of certain parking fees a vehicle with certain specially designed license plates for a family member of a person killed in the line of duty while on active duty in the armed forces of the United States, exempting from the payment of certain parking fees a vehicle with certain specially designed license plates for a family member of a person who died as a result of injuries sustained while on active duty in the armed forces of the United States, and providing other matters properly in there too.
Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that we refer AB 179 to your Committee on Growth and Infrastructure.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 180, introduced by Assemblywoman Hanson, an act relating to insurance, requiring the adoption of regulations to require insurers offering policies of insurance which provide for the payment of expenses which are not covered by Medicare to offer at least one such policy to provide coverage to certain persons with a disability, and providing other matters properly in there too.
Assemblywoman Howdigy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that we refer Assembly Bill 180 to your Committee on Commerce and Labor.
Without objection, so referred. We will now go to order of business 15, remarks from the floor. We have Assemblywoman Titus.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today was originally scheduled to be Nevada Hospital Association Day. However, like many events that we have experienced with this pandemic, that event too was canceled. But we should not miss the opportunity to thank our hospitals and all their employees for the extraordinary measures they have gone through for Nevadans. Nevada Hospital Association has 65 members offering short-term care, acute care, behavioral health, critical access, hospice, rehabilitation, federal and long-term care, and skilled nursing. In 2019, Nevada hospitals handled 1,144,622 ER visits and 366,000 hospital admissions. Since they began tracking the COVID crisis, they have cared for 20,000 plus patients hospitalized with confirmed COVID in 2019 and 2020 so far. The good news is that in 2019, Nevada hospitals have also delivered 32,000 babies. And I've had the privilege of delivering babies myself. And what a wonderful, incredible experience that is. Nevada Hospital Association members have 8,815 beds and employ 32,000 medical professionals across our diverse state. Please join me in thanking our hometown medical professionals that care for the rest of us. Thank you.
Assemblywoman Miller.
Thank you, Speaker.
Oh, I'm sorry, Assemblyman Miller. I got the wrong Miller. Sorry.
It's okay, it happens. All this month, we celebrate Black history to honor the rich traditions and contributions that African Americans have made to the United States and here in Nevada. This morning, I want to share a few little known facts about Black history within our state's mining industry. As important as mining is to our state and the focus that is being placed on it this legislative session, I think it's important that we also understand and acknowledge that African Americans have been unsung members of the mining industry. Now, since mining became important to our country, and while Nevada was never a slave state, we certainly had our share of racist views and policies, whether directly enacted by the legislature or reflected by people and the business community in actions. Now, African Americans have always had the opportunity to work in Nevada's mines, but we weren't always welcome. In the late 1800s, as the labor movement picked up, the mining industry was entering its bust cycle. The Sutro Tunnel obtained approval and began development in 1869. Now, to work in the tunnel, you had to be a member of the Silver Cities Miners Union. A debate took place on whether the two African-American laborers that were working every bit as hard as their fellow miners, likely harder considering the times, should be admitted as full union members. After a couple of weeks of debate, by May 17, 1879, both workers had been admitted to the Silver City Miners Union. They were trailblazers. Now, let me not leave out our African-American women. This morning, I also must highlight Maggie Johnson, known as the Angel of Mill Canyon. Ms. Johnson lived in northern Eureka County's Mill Canyon Mining District in the 1880s, where she operated a boarding house, but also acquired interest in various mining claims. Now, she was very generous, and her name, Angel of Mill Canyon, came because she often supported or helped other miners who were down on their luck financially. When she left the mining industry, she was able to sell one of her stakes for something close to what would be a value of $200,000 today. Ms. Johnson also broke barriers Ms. Johnson also broke other barriers of the day. There are reports of her marriage to a Caucasian man, which was illegal at the time due to Nevada law prohibiting interracial marriage. She kept her name, and after he died, she went back to working her claims herself. The grueling and painful work that eventually eroded her physical body, causing arthritis and ailments, could not quench her spirit. Ms. Johnson, in her late days, was reportedly dancing the fandango on at least one account before she left us. Now, there's a long gap from 1924 to 2020, and today, this month, we celebrate the anniversary of Mr. Tyree Gray, who became not only the first African-American president of the Nevada Mining Association, but the first person of color to lead a major trade association in Nevada. We celebrate this anniversary and his new role this month, and it is my hope that Mr. Gray will be the start of transitioning in the industry that will become rapidly more diverse in multiple ways. His big laugh, charismatic thought leader style of leadership is exactly what Nevada leaders need. You all, as we celebrate Black History Month in the last week of the month, I want us to remember that Black history is American history. Black history is Nevada history, and we can't stop making history. Thank you, Speaker.
Assemblywoman Carlton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, a former colleague of ours is being recognized in the Nevada State Senate, Senator Joe Neal. So if I may, Mr. Speaker, under order of business, just recognize the fact of what Senator Neal has given to the state and how he truly epitomizes leaving it better than you found it. I'd like to read just a couple paragraphs from the West Side Slugger, the preface, that I think really tells a lot of the story. An encouraging word from a dedicated teacher, the lessons of a careworn textbook deemed not good enough for white children, a borrowed shirt fit for a bus ride beyond his insular existence. Of such moments was Joe Neal's young life made. Looking back across the decades, it's clear that his journey from the sharecropped cotton fields of Louisiana to the halls of the Nevada State Senate turned on such barely recognizable kindnesses. With an uncommon tenacity, Neil knotted those humble lengths of rope and climbed from Madison Parish toward the light of opportunity. In a country that advertised equality, Neil appreciated it at every age when most African Americans of his generation eventually learned that the fortunate and truly blessed might see a real chance for advancement come just once in a lifetime. If I may, Mr. Speaker, share a very brief story. I cannot remember the session. I believe it was 2001. It was a debate over privatizing workers' comp. The bill came to the floor. The majority party moved the previous question. A ruckus ensued. The majority party, got up and left the chamber. The majority leader forgot to adjourn. So, as a member of the minority party, I'm sitting in my chair. I'm looking around. What the you-know-what just happened? So I look to my left. There's my minority leader. I look down to the front, and there's Senator Neal. He turns around out of that chair. He walks up to the minority leader's desk, and he goes, "We need to run some bills." The minority party was in control of the Nevada State Senate until 2 a.m. that morning. I'm sitting there. I hear a whisper above me from the person who this glass is named after. And he looks down. He says, "Hey, freshman, what do you think?" I said, "I think I'm in the majority and maybe for the only time in my life." And he goes, "I think you might be right." Well, we've proved that wrong. So Senator Neal proceeded to go down to the chief clerk's desk, the secretary of the Senate's desk. He pulled a list of bills out. He said, "We need to move these." We started voting bills. The people that had left the chamber and gone home got in their cars and came running back to adjourn at about 3 a.m. that day. So I learned a valuable lesson from Senator Neal that night. Always be able to be prepared to take your chance when it shows up. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. And in case any of you get any bright ideas, we are well aware of this story and fully prepared. I'll take a point of personal privilege under Order of Business 15 to acknowledge that anyone who knew Senator Neal saw a magical presence. You see this tall African-American man with a cowboy hat up here who knew the rules better than anybody in the building. He is certainly a leader I strived to emulate because he valued the rules and the process and the institution. And there are many ways that you can effectively advocate for your district and for your community and for this state within the confines of a structure that has survived the test of time over years. And as long as we utilize that, learn that, and don't abuse that, that I think is part of what Senator Neal's legacy was. As I said upon his passing, and it just really summarized in one line what I think we all should strive to be like, and that was when he was running for election and he had been fighting for things, you know, voting rights restoration didn't start here with us. He was fighting for this in the 70s. But when he ran, he said, "I'll never embarrass you, and I'll do the right thing in terms of service to you and the community." What better words of advice for anybody in public service? So with that, we honor Senator Neal. I believe that we do have a video that we're going to play, but can we get a 1-minute recess?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 1-minute recess.
Thank you. The Assembly will come back to order. We go to order of business 7, messages from the Senate.
Senate Chamber, Carson City, February 25, 2021. To the Honorable the Assembly, I have the honor to inform your honorable body that the Senate on this day adopted Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 3. Sherry Rodriguez, Assistant Secretary of the Senate.
Go to order of business 8, motions, resolutions, and notices.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Under Order Business 8, I was going to address Assembly Bill 110 now.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Under Order Business 8, I move to place Assembly Bill 110 on second reading for purposes of amendment.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We go back to order, well, up to order of business 11.
Assembly Bill 110, introduced by Assemblyman Frierson and Brittany Miller, an act relating to lobbying, revising the definition of the term lobbyist for the purpose of determining the applicability of certain provisions governing lobbyists, revising provisions relating to the registration of lobbyists and the filing of certain reports concerning lobbying activities, and providing other matters appropriately thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 4, end of Section 4, end of bill.
Are the amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
I have Amendment Number 5, proposed by the Assembly Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections.
Assemblywoman Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to adopt Amendment 5 to Assembly Bill 110.
Assemblywoman Miller has moved that the Assembly adopt Amendment 5 to Assembly Bill 110. Remarks?
Yes. Amendment 5 to Assembly Bill 110 does the following. First, it deletes Section 1 of the measure, specifies that a lobbyist is required to file registration during a regular and special session, adds an additional exception indicating that lobbyist does not include persons who confine their lobbying activities to communication directly with one or more members of the legislative branch only on an infrequent or irregular basis, and does not otherwise engage in any lobbying activities, and specifies the time frame by which a lobbyist must file a registration statement during the current legislative session.
Thank you. Any further remarks?
No, Mr. Speaker.
From anyone else? All those in favor of the Assembly adopting Amendment Number 5 to Assembly Bill 110 signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. The amendment is adopted. Any further amendments to the bill?
There are none.
The bill is ordered reprinted and engrossed in the general file. We go back to Assembly Order of Business 8, motions. I believe we are waiting for Senator Neal. We need a 1 minute recess.
1 minute recess.
We will be at ease just for a few minutes, and Senator Neal has asked that she be able to join us to watch a video tribute to her late father, Senator Joe Neal. So we'll be at ease just for a few minutes. The Assembly will come to order. We will go to order of business 8, and before that motion, I would like to extend a warm welcome to our dear Senator Dina Neal, who is rejoining us in her roots to join us in a tribute to the late Senator Joe Neal. So we go to order of business 8, motions, resolutions, and notices.
Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 3, introduced by Senators Cannizzaro et al., Assemblyman Frierson et al. Memorializing former State Senator Joseph M. Neal, Jr. Whereas the members of the Nevada Legislature are mourning the passing on December 31st, 2020, of one of their most esteemed colleagues and one of Nevada's most accomplished citizens, former State Senator Joseph Joe M. Neal, Jr. And whereas Joseph M. Neal, Jr. was born in Mound, Louisiana on July 28, 1935, and moved to Nevada in 1954. And whereas after completing military service in the United States Air Force, Joe received his BA in Political Science and History from Southern University in 1963, and shortly thereafter married his wife of 32 years, Estelle Ann DeConge. And whereas, upon returning to Las Vegas, Joe Neal worked as an equal opportunity compliance officer for one of Southern Nevada's largest employers, tasked with integrating the company, and fought discriminatory practices in Southern Nevada for a decade. And whereas, after Joe Neal was first elected to the state Senate in 1972, becoming the first African-American person to serve in the Nevada State Senate, he went on to serve in 16 regular sessions and 7 special sessions from 1972 to 2004, including 8 years in leadership positions as Senate President pro tempore, Assistant Majority Floor Leader, Minority Floor Leader, and Assistant Minority Floor Leader. And whereas Senator Neal served diligently and honorably as chair of the Senate Committee on Human Resources and Facilities and the Senate Committee on Natural Resources. And whereas Joe Neal was the first African-American person to be a major party candidate for Nevada governor in 2002. And whereas, as state senator, Joe Neal was a champion for the disadvantaged, sponsoring legislation to secure public safety in strengthening the fire code for commercial buildings, to expand the state library and healthcare systems, and furthering equal rights. And whereas, by his retirement in 2004, Senator Neal was the longest-serving state senator in the history of Nevada and was inducted into the Nevada Senate Hall of Fame in 2005. And whereas Senator Neal received numerous national awards and honors over the years for his legislative service, including the Reverend Jesse Jackson Distinguished Political Award from the NAACP, a Lifetime Commitment Award from the Nevada AFL-CIO, and a Civil Liberty Award from the American Civil Liberties Union of Nevada, and was honored by the naming of the Rawson Neal Hospital Building and Joseph M. Neal Elementary School in his honor. And whereas Senator Neal was tireless in his commitment to the people of the state of Nevada, his dedication to poor and marginalized citizens for the good of the people of this state, and his dedication to public service, which continues on in his daughter, Senator Dina Neal, who was elected to the Senate seat, his Senate seat in 2020. And whereas Joseph M. Neal Jr. will long be remembered as one of Nevada's most talented parliamentarians, dedicated protectors of marginalized citizens, and as the conscience of the legislature, whose service will benefit generations of Nevadans. Now therefore be it resolved by the Senate of the State of Nevada, the Assembly concurring, that the members of the 81st session of the Nevada Legislature hereby extend their deepest condolences to Senator Neal's children, Sharice, Tanya, Withanya, Dina, Amelia, and Joseph, and his numerous grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And be it further resolved that the Secretary of the Senate prepare and transmit copies of this resolution to the family of Joseph M. Neal Jr., and be it further resolved that this resolution becomes effective upon adoption. End of resolution.
Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the Assembly adopt Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 3.
Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno has moved that the Assembly adopt Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 3. Remarks.
Members, there's not much more that I can say about the leader that Senator Neal was that you haven't heard in the resolution or the remarks from my colleagues. What I do want to say is that I hope that each one of us, as we serve in this legislative body, that we strive to be as knowledgeable as he was, as caring and compassionate as he was, and that when we leave with the respect that he had when he served. So I urge this body to adopt this resolution.
Thank you. Any further remarks? I will note for Senator Dina Neal's edification of the fond stories that were discussed earlier this morning about how Senator Neal had a mastery of the rules and on occasion found his way to running the floor in the minority. And I also warned everybody not to try that over here. There being no further remarks, all those in favor of adopting Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 3 signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. The resolution is adopted and ordered to the Senate. We can go to Order Business 15 now, and I think we have a little video presentation.
My name is Sharice Neal Washington. I am the firstborn daughter of State Senator Joe Neal. And you wanted to know the fondest memory or memory we had growing up with my father. There are so many, but one is a very funny one to me. I remember we had to read the encyclopedias, not just any encyclopedias. We had to read A through Z in the summertime. And while I watching out of the window, while I saw my friends enjoying and playing, I was so upset and sad that I had to read instead of play. By the time I read encyclopedia letter Z and do a book report, it was time to go back to school. However, I am so grateful for this because I fell in love with books and I read with understanding to this day.
I am the third daughter with Anya, the pharmacist, since he always introduced us by profession. A good memory I have of him is about 2 years ago, we were driving back from Sacramento and we went through Lake Tahoe, through Carson City, all the way back home to Las Vegas. A drive that took him 7 hours usually was taking us 12 hours because he was reminiscent about everything that he's done for the state of Nevada and how proud he was for the contributions that he did for the land of Nevada and the people of Nevada. I appreciate you memorializing my father.
Hi, I'm Dr. Tania Neal Edwards, and it is a pleasure and an honor to speak on behalf of our father. The fondest memory I have, they are many, but the one that I will always cherish are our visits to Carson City and Reno and Lake Tahoe. He would drive and through those mountains with ease and grace, even though he had a lead foot, and sometimes he would fog up the window on the side. But he was so good at maneuvering those mountains. He would whip through them like whipped butter. And we will always remember those trips to Lake Tahoe and Carson City and Reno and Virginia City. Every time we would go, he would take us to those places like we had never been there before, but we would enjoy every time we would go and get ice cream, and just he would give us the history of Nevada and Lake Tahoe, and that will be one of my fondest memories.
Joe Neal was always willing to fight for what was right, even against the greatest odds. He may have been outnumbered, but he was never outsmarted. Joe led seminal bills to restore the rights of felons, build libraries in underserved communities, preserve Lake Tahoe, pass the Equal Rights Act of 1977, and force casinos to add fire prevention sprinkler systems, setting a national safety standard. He had a laugh that could light up a room and a voice that could light up a movement.
He will be sorely missed. I have to say that he was my mentor, he was my friend, and I loved him. The state of Nevada is a better place because of Senator Neal.
Saw the best in me.
Thank you, Senator Neal, for lending your dad to the state of Nevada. We honor you and your dad. Any further remarks from the floor? Assemblywoman Martinez Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would move that the Assembly adjourn in the memory of Senator Neal until Friday, February 26, 2021 at 11:30 a.m.
You heard the motion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned.